Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th President and your 45th President.
Full disclaimer, this video has been shot on the 11th of November of 2024. I'm going to be recording two videos talking about the geopolitical situation of the world as of today. Well, the reason why I'm giving you this disclosure is because a lot of things happen on a daily basis that actually changes things quite rapidly. But now, since we are already here, and there'll be two videos that I'll be making, which will be coming one after the other, which will talk about the geopolitical situation of the world as we know today. All right, let's get to the first video of it, where I will be covering three things. One, why did President Trump win, or how did President Trump become the President of the United States of America?
Hey, look what happened. Is this crazy?
Donald Trump has been elected to a second term as president, defeating a resurgent Democratic nominee in Vice President Kamala Harris.
Second, why did Kamala Harris lose the elections? And third, what is the Indian community in the US actually thinking, and whom did they actually vote for?
Would you prefer Trump or Harris to win?
I guess Trump has to win.
Would you prefer Trump or Harris to win?
Trump.
Okay.
I'll be covering these three things. And one more special caveat today is about how this election will actually impact India and Indians living in India as well. There'll be a brief gist of it as well. All right, let's get to the same topic. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we all know that there's a presidential election that just got completed in the United States of America, and Donald Trump became the 47th President of the US of A. This is the second term following what happened in 2016. This is the second time he actually won and he became the President of the US of A. Now, there were a lot of narratives that were floating around internet primarily, and also the US mainstream media talking about, Donald Trump's policies are like this, there's some little bit of fascism, there's a little bit of this, versus President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris's entire regime, which is filled with a lot more liberal values, liberal core values and everything. But the fact of the matter is that the United States of America, being a two-party system, which is Democrats and Republicans, the people clearly voted for the Republicans this time because there were certain core issues and problems in the US that needed to be addressed as soon as possible. Number one, the open border policy by the Democrats really skyrocketed the crime rates of major cities in the US of A. A lot of illegal immigrants were just walking in straight from places in Southern America, which were actually entering America and causing a lot of trouble. And this was one thing which many of the average Americans didn't like, because these are the same guys who were coming in illegally, taking jobs, and basically creating a ruckus as well.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program.
Donald Trump has made no secret of his plans, vowing a vast crackdown on the estimated 11 million illegal immigrants in the U.S.
And to avoid that, they chose the party that believes in a closed border policy, which happens to be the Republicans. There is a lot of family-related core issues which the Democrats fight for. They come from an ideology regarding abortions, and Republicans have a certain ideology about the abortions. And due to this difference in opinion, a lot of people in the US are also quite, mixed about this. There are 50% of the people who believe in the Democratic ideology. There are 50% who believe in the Republican ideology. And that's the reason why this time, maybe a few people added the border issue to it. And then they decided that, let's vote for the person who actually cares about the economy, and let's also vote for the person who cares about national security, which clearly the Democrats also did, but they didn't really show it on the outside because the party didn't actually do much work for the economy and for the well-being of people in the US of A. Number three, more importantly, Donald Trump's campaign was one of the most brilliant marketing pieces that you will ever see in the whole world. Look at the kind of people that he actually did a podcast with. You expect a president of America doing comedy podcasts. Guess what? Donald Trump did it. You expect a guy to go to Joe Rogan for sure. And guess what? Donald Trump did it. Whereas Kamala Harris only did a podcast with a select few people, and these are the people who actually were also left-leaning. She didn't do any podcast with a person who was centrist or right-leaning. And that comes with a point where, the whole point of left-wing censorship and all these things with mainstream media, that really didn't work. Because the mainstream media was bullish on Kamala Harris, was bullish on President Biden, but Donald Trump, on the other hand, was one guy who went on multiple platforms, multiple channels, and spoke whatever he had to say, and everyone knew what he was going to say. Everyone knew what to expect from him, and he didn't go away from his messaging even once. He didn't change the tone of his voice, he didn't change the tone of his words, and he didn't change the tone of his promises. From day 1 to day 100, it was the same uniform, consistent messaging that he believed in, and he just went through distribution. So fellow marketers, if you are looking at content and context, you have to also look at, and what you can learn from him is, be uniform and consistent with your content and context, but be very, very different in terms of distribution. That's exactly what Donald Trump taught us. So it was a brilliant marketing masterclass that he gave the entire world on how to actually engage and move mass number of people in the US of A. And this is one of the main reasons why he actually won it. Let's face it, guys, every election, politicians use different tools to distribute their messages. Okay? In India, in 2014, Prime Minister Modi came into power because of his optimal use of social media. That was the first time where Ab Ki Baar Modi Sarkar and all these other slogans became viral on Facebook, and not so much on Instagram because Instagram was not that popular, but on Facebook and Twitter formerly back then. Same thing in 2008, Barack Obama used social media. And in 2012, he again used social media. In 2016, Donald Trump used other tools, other means. And during COVID, Biden and Harris, they used something else. And this time, it was the role of podcasters and podcasting that actually got the message out and got a lot of people to vote for President Donald Trump. This is the main reason why. I also want to tell you something of the harsh reality of left-wing based censorship program. Left-wing talks about being liberal, being democratic, whereas the primary candidate, Kamala Harris, was not even elected through a primary. She was just elected, or she was just given the opportunity straight up by the top brass of Democrat Party. There was no voting done, there was no primary elections done. For those of you who don't know it, anybody who becomes a president candidate or presidential candidate needs to go through a primary in the USA. Whereas the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, both of them have to do the same thing. Whereas in the Republican Party, a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy and other people actually fought their primaries and they lost to Donald Trump. And that's why he was selected as the presidential candidate of the Republican Party and the representative of the Republican Party. And that's how he actually fought the elections of 2024. And then he won the elections and now he's the president-elect. However, in the case of Kamala Harris, she was just told, or she was just given the opportunity to just become the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. And that's the reason why lifelong Democrats like RFK Jr. actually moved and are now actually supporters of Donald Trump. So let's face it, censorship and all these propaganda, which the liberal values or core liberal values should be against, they actually do it themselves. So it's kind of a hypocritical thing if you ask me. And that's the reason why many people saw through the hypocrisy and they actually gave this opportunity to these guys.
Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
Hey, look what happened. Is this crazy?
Donald Trump has been elected to a second term as president, defeating a resurgent Democratic nominee in Vice President Kamala Harris.
Coming to the point of what this presidential election means to the Indian community staying in the USA, I want to make one thing perfectly clear though regarding the Indian American community in the US. All right? And I say this with a lot of responsibility. The Indians who are actually American citizens who got an opportunity to vote this time are not thinking from an Indian point of view anymore. They are American citizens facing the problems of America in America. All right? Let me repeat myself. They are no longer Indians. They are Indian origin, yes. They have cultural roots, yes. But their thinking, their ideologies, and everything are very American. They are completely American. They are American citizens, for God's sake. So when they are voting for Donald Trump, there's a narrative which is very funny that suggests that India will improve relationships or relationship with America under President Donald Trump. You know what? The community there doesn't really care about that. They care about internal policies. They care about their borders. They care about education. They care about economy. They care about a lot of other stuff. But foreign policy, relations with India, last thing on their mind. Because let's face it, as an Indian citizen, will you ever vote for a government in India based on bettering their relationships with, say, with another country? No, right? So that's the same thing should be applied there as well. You name them, whether it's Sundar Pichai of Google, whether it's Satya Nadella of Microsoft, or whether it's Vivek Ramaswamy, who was almost, who actually contested in the Republican primaries. They are not Indians anymore. They are not Indian citizens. They are Americans. They are American tax-paying citizens. They've actually got their education, their entire thing in the US of A. So by calling them Indian origin or by calling them Indians is something that the media in India should stop doing immediately. Because they didn't vote for better relationships with India. No, they voted purely and primarily for better interests of their own country, which is not India, which is United States of America. When it comes to the shift in terms of where the Indian community is actually voted for in America, for Americans, number one, they voted for better change. Some people voted Republican, some people voted Democratic. Some people are liberal, some people are right-wing. Some people are left, some people are woke, some people are everything. So Indian community is basically represented by all the different ideologies, and different people have different perspectives. But I would like to say that as Indians, we should not be thinking that, the Indian community will be taken care of. The Indian community and Donald Trump have a very good relationship. Donald Trump loves all Hindus and he doesn't, all these sort of weird rhetorics that go out there. There's an amount of pandering that is done to a particular community, which is a minority, and that is also being taken care of in America. And few people resonate with it, few people don't. But the last thing that we should do as Indians sitting in India, as Indian citizens, that we should actually really look at what they say and assume that they're speaking for the voice of an Indian. I don't know why Indians had this thing that, India cares about Donald Trump so much. Why should we when he's not even the president of India, right? We feel that they care about our elections and they feel that we care about their elections. In reality, we just care about our elections, which is in our country. And that's the real bottom line of this. So, next time an NRI cousin of yours tells you, relationships with India will be better and everything, take it with a pinch of salt. He or she has no interest in that. He or she is only interested in the domestic policies of the US of A. And which is rightfully so. If an NRI comes and talks to me about Indian politics, I would obviously say, you have your ideologies, we have our ideologies, because we care more about our domestic affairs than anything else. This is the reality of the American elections. How does this impact India? Is Donald Trump truly an Indian friend or an Indian ally? Will it affect our jobs? Will it affect our economy? Will it affect a lot of things? To know more about this, wait for about few days, because the second video that I'll be dropping out will have all this information. And this is a series of geopolitical videos that I'll be doing about everything that's happening in the Middle East, in Europe, and every part of the world. And stay tuned for more. Until next time, this is Rohit Kurpad signing off with this video of part 1. Part 2 coming very soon.